Not to play on the mysterious and eerie vibe that is sometimes associated with Romania, but did you know that on January 1st, 2011, Romania instituted a black magic tax? Since witches and fortune tellers pretty much work as life coaches of the supernatural, they're recognized by the country as legitimate business people, so now they gotta pay a tax. Witches also need to carry a permit with them. Near the Ukrainian border is what's called the Mary Cemetery, a woodcarver by the name of Stan Ion Petras. He designed it in 1940, and it's both a tourist destination as well as an open-air museum. Known for its colorful carved wooden crosses painted with scenes of the deceased's life, each of the tombstones, they actually have some sort of funny poem about the person who passed away, and it's considered to be the happiest cemetery on planet Earth. So it's not just eerie things happening down in Romania. And the Romanian language also is the only Romance language in Eastern Europe. Most people, me included, believe that the Romanian language is similar to languages like Russian or other Slavic countries. However, Romanian is actually a Romance language, and it's related to languages like Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Did not know that. Romania also has the tallest wooden church in Europe. In a small village in northern Romania, old churches have been carved in wood by people from Maramuresh. In the region, some of them are listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and this church, the Sapinsta, is 78 meters tall. That's about 255 feet tall. Also, some amazing scientists and engineers came out of Romania who actually changed the world. Some of these include Nicolae Constantin Paulescu, who claimed to have been the first person to discover insulin. Then there's Eugene Pavel, who was the inventor of the Hyper CD-ROM, and R.L. Pershu, the first engineer and car designer to build a car with the wheels inside of the body of the car. Petrat Poneru also invented the fountain pen, and there's many others. That could be a whole nother episode on its own. Romania is also home to the world's second largest administrative building, and it's second only to the Pentagon in the United States. Bucharest Palace of the Parliament is also known as the People's House. It's the second largest, the heaviest, and the most expensive civil administration building in the world. It has a total area of 360,000 square meters, and this is recognized by Guinness World Record. Also, the tallest rock sculpture in Europe is located in Romania. The sculpture was made between 1994 and 2004 on a rock formation on the river Danube. It's located at the Iron Gate, which forms part of the border between Romania and Serbia, and the sculpture is near the small city of Orsova in southwestern Romania, and it's 55 meters high. The sculpture is of Decebalus, who was the last king of Dacia, and you can only reach the sculpture by boat. There's also the Transfiguration, also known as the DN7C, a lot easier to pronounce, and this was called the best road in the world by Jeremy Clarkson in 2009 in an episode of Top Gear.
This is the best road in the world!
The road runs for 90 kilometers across the southern Carpathian Mountains between the highest and the second highest peaks. The road climbs to 2,034 meters in altitude at its highest point, and it also passes Vlad the Impaler's castle. Now, of course, I cannot have a video about Romania without mentioning Count Dracula. Irish author Bram Stoker's 1897 horror novel Dracula really popularized vampires, especially in the fiction fantasy genre for books and even movies and TV shows now. The fictional Count Dracula lives in what Stoker describes as a ruin of the castle in the Carpathian Mountains, but the real-life Bran Castle in Brasov in the Transylvania region, it's not a ruin at all. It's actually very well preserved, and a lot of inspiration for Dracula's castle was taken from this one. And also no, Count Dracula is not a real person, just completely fiction. There's no vampires living up in Romania, I think. The Romanian wedding customs include stealing the bride at weddings. This is a pretty funny one. So in Romanian culture, the weddings include kidnapping the bride during the wedding ceremony. A few of the guests steal the bride for a ransom of candy or alcohol or some other things. Most guests end up taking the bride to a local pub or something to dance for a little bit. So if you get married in Romania for some reason, do not call the police. Your wife is supposed to get kidnapped, okay? Starting off with an interesting fact about the currency of Romania at number 10. So the official currency in Romania is the leu, which means lion. And it's interesting because the country does not use a lion or anything related to a lion on its money. Also, lions don't live in Romania at all. So Romania joined the European Union in January of 2007. However, the leu is still the official currency. Now, you know this guy, right? Sacha Baron Cohen. You know the guy that plays Borat and other characters. Well, in the Borat film that supposedly showed Borat's hometown in Kazakhstan, it's actually filmed in a village of Glod in Romania, and gypsies were casted as extras. Some other films shot in Romania include The Expendables 3, Cold Mountain, The Whistleblower, and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. The capital of Romania, Bucharest, is home to one of the world's most beautiful bookshops. Check this out. This is the Carturești Carousel, and it opened in the year 2015 in a 19th century building that was restored. It has more than 10,000 books and 5,000 albums and DVDs, as well as it has a bistro on the top floor. Also, Europe's best preserved delta can be found in Romania. Located in eastern Romania, the Danube Delta is the second largest delta in all of Europe, and it's the best preserved on the entire continent. It has 300 species of different birds and 160 species of fish, and you'll also be able to see some of Europe's last horses that live in the wild. Romania is home to Europe's second largest underground glacier, the Scaroșoara Cave, located at an altitude of 1,165 meters in the Apușeni Mountains, houses this glacier, and it has a volume of 75,000 cubic meters. Also, Romania has a lot of active volcanoes, and it's not necessarily what you think. They aren't like the giant volcanoes though. They only measure just under 20 feet tall, and they don't shoot out fire. But Romania has these mud volcanoes, and they're pretty unique. So they're created by a mix of mud and water and gases. To see these mud volcanoes, you gotta travel all the way to Berca in Buzău County, which is 122 kilometers from the capital, Bucharest. Now, one of Romania's amazing sites is the Arc of Triumph, which was built in 1936 to celebrate Romania's participation in World War II. It stands at 88 feet tall, and the arc was modeled after the Arc de Triomphe de l'Étoile on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, France. It's covered in Ruchita marble, and it has sculptures by some of the best artists that lived at the time. Now, the former salt mine Salina Truda, which dates all the way back to the 17th century, has an underground amusement park located 400 feet deep. Some of the attractions here include bowling, there's an amphitheater for live music, and of course contains things like Ferris wheels. You'll also be able to find underground salt lake that you can go boating in. Did you know that Romania once had Europe's longest bridge? At 13,411 feet, it was completed in the year 1895, and its name, the Angel Siligny Bridge. And it became the longest bridge in Europe and the second longest in the entire world, stretching over the Danube River. Now, to prove the bridge could be trusted, on inauguration day, the Romanian architect Agnel Silinghi stood under the bridge inside of a boat together with his engineers, and 15 locomotives traveled across the tracks on the bridge, traveling at 80 kilometers per hour. And of course, yes, the bridge stood still. And the final thing is, the reason why there's a large number of orphans in Romania was due to the measures allowed by Nicolae Ceausescu, the last communist leader of Romania. An estimated 100,000 Romanian children were in orphanages at the end of 1989 when communism ended. In the year 1966, the regime banned abortions and contraceptives just to keep the population from shrinking after the Second World War. First thing I want to share is that, oh my god, like I've done several videos about Romania, but I can't believe that I've never shared this fact. So the name Romania comes from the Latin word Romanus, which means citizen of Rome. Now this was because the Romans had conquered and colonized this area. And now there's a whole bunch of history from the time of the Roman colonization that I'm going to go through right now, so get ready for a brief history class. Okay, so here we go. As history tells tells us most of Romania was the Roman province of Dacia from around 100 to 271 AD. Between the 3rd century to the 12th century, several barbarian conquerors overran Dacia under the rule of the Roman Empire. Now, it was during the 8th to the 10th century that subjection to the Bulgarian Empire brought Eastern Orthodox Christianity to the Romanian people. Then, in the 11th century, Transylvania, the now famous region in Romania, was brought under the rule of the Hungarian Empire. Leading up to the 16th century, the main Romanian states of Moldavia, which is now the country of Moldova, and Wallachia had become independent states within the Ottoman Empire. After the Russo-Turkish War in 1828 to 1829, they became Russian-controlled states. Then finally, the Kingdom of Romania was formed in 1881. Now, there's a lot more history that I haven't even touched on, guys, so yeah, I think I'll save that for part 4. Hint, hint. So switching gears completely now, Romania loves their alcohol, and that's a fact. Okay, so in 2016, Romania was the 5th alcohol-consuming country in the entire world, behind 4 Eastern European countries: Belarus, Russia, Moldova, and Lithuania. It is estimated on average Romanians consume 14.4 liters of pure alcohol every single year. Visitors of Romania may get lucky and spot Europe's largest mammal. So what am I talking about? Well, coming in at a weight of 1,400 pounds, the European bison was not too long ago nearly extinct due to hunting. However, in recent years, it's been reintroduced to several Eastern European countries, including Romania, and hopefully this species keeps on thriving. I hate hearing about animals going extinct. Romania also has some world records and some pretty cool accomplishments as well. So Carrefour Romania and local meat producers Aldis helped Romania set a world record for the longest sausage in the world. Like, I'm not kidding. This sausage was 62.7 kilometers long and weighed 45 tons. The sausage was made of raw minced meat, and it was displayed in the parking lot of the Ploiești shopping center, where Carrefour has one of its massive supermarkets. Now, the sausage had to be stored inside these large crates. That's a lot of sausage. I wonder what happened. Like, did they eat this thing? Or is it still preserved somewhere? Who knows? I should look that fact up after I finish filming this episode. Romania also had the largest boulevard in Europe. Bucharest Boulevardul Unirii was communist Romania's answer to Paris's Avenue des Champs-Élysées. With a length of 3.5 kilometers, of course it was longer than the Champs-Élysées, which was something to brag about. Because when it was made, it really was intended to be this big deal, and they were not hiding that fact. It was hardly ever used for transport unless someone very important was visiting. Then they would be like, okay, yeah, you can use this. There's also a Romanian gymnast that was the first ever to get a perfect 10 at the Olympic Games. At just the age of 14 years old, Nadia Comaneci was the first gymnast in history of the Olympic Games to get a perfect score of 10. She achieved this in the 1976 Summer Olympics in Montreal, Canada. At the 1980 Games, she landed 2 more perfect 10s. Another big accomplishment associated with Romania is that Romania's famous Palace Castle was the first completely electrified castle in Europe. Electricity was produced by the castle's own plant. We're coming down to the end, only 2 facts left. So Romania also has some very spooky places, man. Like, one of them is the Haibacchiu Forest, also known as Romania's Bermuda Triangle. So a lot of paranormal activities happen here, and people said that they've seen ghosts and even UFOs. Now, I'm not going to list every single place like this forest that's creepy in Romania, but I actually did a video on the scariest places in Romania, so I'll link to that video down below. I go into a lot more detail over there, and a lot of people really enjoyed that one. Now, the final thing I want to share in this episode is that there is this mysterious monument, though, that I haven't mentioned up until now. So you see, the Sphinx is a mysterious natural rock formation located in the Bucegi Mountains. Legend says that the rock represents a god who was worshipped by the Dacians of old. Now, some stories about the rock link it to aliens from outer space. Many believe that the area where the Sphinx is contains some sort of special energy. So I don't know, maybe that's why so many people visit it every single year. First thing, Transylvania is not a city, okay? It's a historical region located in the heart of Romania. The term sometimes is used not only for Transylvania proper, but also for parts of the historical regions like Cristiana and Marmureș, and sometimes the Romanian part of Banat. The region of Transylvania is known for the scenery of its Carpathian mountains, as well as its rich history, and also contains major cities like Cluj-Napoca and Brașov, as well as Sibiu and others. So take a look at this. This is the Astra Museum in Sibiu, and it's the second largest open-air museum in the entire world. When you visit, you'll see over 300 houses and buildings, and there are many other things that you can see like water mills and windmills, as well as huge wine and oil presses, and also some hydraulic forges, among many other things. It's quite an experience. Transylvania is also not filled with vampires. Transylvania, as we know, has a reputation for being spooky and eerie. We see it all the time in the movies. And now it's sometimes jokingly said that the Irish author Bram Stoker's Dracula is Transylvania's most prosperous export. Why? Well, because it fascinates people and tourists come pouring in to visit castles and other sites in Transylvania. They want to see, am I gonna get a glimpse of a real life vampire? So I mean, it kind of paid off, financially that is. Now let's look at those castles just a little bit more. And this one is not really a fact though, but the medieval castles in Transylvania are some of the best in the world. Of course, there is the Bran Castle, which was the castle that inspired the fictional Dracula's castle. Also, the Peleș Castle is amazing, and the Corvin Castle is pretty awesome, and it's one of the largest in all of Europe. So guys, have you heard of Palinka? Well, this drink contains 40% alcohol, and it is served in a shot glass and paired with dinner. It's double distilled over a 6-year time period in oak and mulberry barrels. So what is it made of anyways? Well, it has apples, pears, plums, apricots, peaches. As nice as that may sound, they do warn that this one doesn't go down easily. It's not that easy to handle. Well, for lightweight drinkers anyways. Prince Charles also loves Transylvania. Prince Charles has visited the area many times since 1998, and he has turned his interest towards buying old Saxon real estate to renovate them and rent them out in order to increase tourism in abandoned and lesser known villages. This really helps to boost the local economy, and it also highlights the uniqueness of living spaces that are infused with an air of village life. And just so you know, there are 7 Saxon villages that are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, so it's definitely worth a visit if you ever go and visit the Transylvania region. Now, while it's hard to avoid the creepiness and all that, you'll find hardwood forests, wildflower meadows, and just traveling around Transylvania, you're gonna see why it is called the last truly medieval landscape in Europe, because it can feel like you've gone back in time by a century or more. You'll see horse-drawn carts, you'll see shepherds looking after their flocks, as well as you're gonna witness people just making hay out there in the daytime. Transylvania also has a number of resort towns, and they're very popular for their therapeutic waters. The mineral mud and warm salty waters of Bear Lake in Savata are said to cure infertilities. The waters of Ocna Sibiuli is said to be good for arthritis. You can also head over to Covasna for a sauna of sorts of post-volcanic gases, which is thought to help with cardiovascular conditions. Patients stand for up to 20 minutes while the heavier carbon dioxide gases is absorbed into their skin. Inhaling the gases can be pretty fatal though, so all of this is done under medical supervision. The Carpathian Mountains are homes to animals like wolves, lynx, as well as it has Europe's largest population of brown bears. Around 5,000 bears roam around in the oak and beech forest. The Forestry Commission owns a number of hides where you can go and take a look at the bears in the wild with a ranger, including the popular Stramba Valley hide north of Zarnesti. Now, the best way to visit the hide is to take a tour with a company like Transylvanian Wolf, but if you don't want to see one out there in the wild, the Liberty Bear Sanctuary close to Brașov houses about 70 rescued bears. Transylvania also has a very rich and unique religious history. Since the Protestant Reformation, there's different Christian denominations that have been coexisting, including Romanian Orthodox, Romanian Greek, Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Lutheran, and a whole bunch of others. Other faiths that are included are Jews and Muslims as well. People who arrived in Transylvania include those that did not conform to the Catholic Church and were sent there by force, as well as many religious refugees are in Transylvania. Transylvania has a long history of religious tolerance, and Christianity is the largest religion in Transylvania. It has been, and to this day continues to be, a center of Christian denominations other than Eastern Orthodoxy, which is a form of Christianity that most Romanians follow. Alright guys, let me know all your thoughts and comments down below. Yeah, pretty fascinating place. Definitely not like they show in the movie.
So, Romania, what is great about it? What is unique about it? What can we learn about this amazing nation? Well, let's find out. Looking at the great old world map, now it is big, and if we get a little bit closer, we zoom into this good place called Europe. And right here is where Romania is located. And there is a little bit of a debate of where Romania is actually located. There are people out there that say, yes, Romania is in Central Europe. There are people that say, no, it's more in Eastern Europe. And some people are like, no, we're in Southeastern Europe. Depending on how you view Europe, well, I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter. It is in Europe, and that's the only thing that matters. As a matter of fact, I really just get confused, as a whole. I mean, Europe and Asia are just one kind of like continent sort of thing. I mean, like they're connected via land. Doesn't really make much of a difference to me. Because, I mean, like if you look at the Americas, like, Canada and Mexico and, America, of course, it's all called the Americas. That's why for me as a Canadian, I actually get really irked when people call me an American, but I actually forget the fact that they are referring to the fact that I am from the Americas. Truth be told. Okay, that's a little bit of a side note. Let's get back into Romania. Sorry, I talked about myself here. But zooming in a little bit further, we can see that Romania snuggles easily against the countries of Bulgaria, Serbia, Hungary, Moldova, and Ukraine, coming in with a total of 5 different borders. And as a matter of fact, to the east of it, it's got the Black Sea, which it approximately has about 225 kilometers of shoreline. However, that is based off the World Factbook, and it ranks in at 122nd of all countries in the world when it comes to shoreline. However, zooming in even further, we look at the country and it's got about 238,397 kilometers of land within it. It also is a country that doesn't have any land outside of its initial borders. What it has in Europe and where it's located, that's all it owns. This also makes Romania the 81st largest country in the world. However, it is classified as the largest in Southeastern Europe, but the 12th largest in all of Europe. So there you go. There's your Southeast Europe and your all of Europe categories. And within the borders of this country, there's not just land, but there is also people and population, and they've got quite an impressive amount. As a matter of fact, the people within this country are called Romanians, which actually makes me wonder, how did the country get the name Romania in the first place? Let's take a look. The word Romania stems from the word Romanus, which means citizen of Rome. Now, back in the day, the people of Romania weren't called Romans. They were actually called the Geti people by the Greeks, or by the Romans, they were referred to as the Dacians. Now, there's a lot of different theories, and there's a lot of different opinions of how Romania got its name. But let's be perfectly honest, back in the day, the Dacians weren't really liked by the Romans, and I'll explain why. It was more or less that the land that they had was something Rome wanted. The general agreement of how Romania earned its name dates back to 101 AD, when Roman Emperor Trajan sent his forces into what was known back then as Dacia. Along with this conflict, there was another one that followed shortly after. Now, the reason for Rome's invasion was because Rome was simply running short of gold supply. And Romania, or back then Dacia, was rumored to have lots of it. Roman forces then ended up taking the area, occupying it, and began mining the gold for the Roman Empire. However, back to population, within this plucky little nation, there is about 19,518,117 people. Now that is just a rough kind of estimation for 2019, keep that in mind. Yeah, of course, you can't really get an accurate detail, but that's as close as they get. This also makes the country rank 59th in the world when it comes to population. A proper census has not been done since about 2011, in which at the time there was approximately 20 million people within the country. The peak population for Romania was around 1990 to 1991, in which the population was a little under 23 million people. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, this is a country that has a decreasing population. And unlike other countries which we've talked about in the past, such as Belarus, which is a declining population, not just because of death rate and birth rate being not really on par, but also within that country, people are leaving for work opportunities. That's not really happening in Romania. It's more or less the death rate. Also, diving within people, the major ethnic group is obviously Romanians. You also have some minor ethnic backgrounds such as Hungarian, Roma, Ukrainian, German, Albanian, Russian, Turkish, Serbian, Slovak, Arab, and African. Of all these people, when it comes to languages, however, over 90% of the people have reported to speak Romanian. Which, for me, I found it really fascinating because I've heard that Romanian is a really, really old language. As a matter of fact, they say it's over 1,700 years old. Fascinating. However, this is because it is based off of a Latin language, which falls under what you would call Romance languages. That's probably why everybody in Romania just has that, just such an attractive accent. I love it. Now, okay, all right, let's talk about this. Ooh, I hope you guys like that. However, with that, when it comes to the actual amount of religion in the country, they say 81% of the people identify as Christian. More so Orthodox Christianity, but you also have Protestants and, of course, Catholics and other people who identify as other religions, maybe even Islamic. No, I will say this right now, Romania does not have a state religion, which to me is a good thing. Okay, so we're going to get off the stats now, and we're going to look at some really cool facts about the country. First of all, within the country, have you ever heard of the Cave of Bones? Yeah, I know, it sounds scary. This one is absolutely insane. So it's a cave system with about approximately 12 caverns inside. It's located near Anina, which is on the southwest side of Romania. And within this cave, they've discovered some of the oldest human remains in all of Europe. For example, one of the most important remains that they found in 2015 was a skull, known simply as OASE-1. OIS-1, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I probably am. Not only was this skull and the rest of the remains considered the oldest human remains found in all of Europe, but they discovered that it had 5 to 11% of Neanderthal DNA. So there you go, guys, believe it or not, it's helping prove evolution. It's probably another good reason why the state is not run by, religion. It's a good thing. Also, jumping into a little bit more of modern day history, although this is not really modern like, you and I within probably our timeline, but more specifically World War I. Most of us generally during World War I think of the good guys being Britain, Russia, and France fighting against Germany, Austria, and of course the Ottomans of the time. You might be surprised to know that Romania was actually on the side of the Allies fighting with the British and the Americans, who did show up late, but they also contributed quite heavily towards the war front. During World War I, Romania also took back the lands of Transylvania, in which the West agreed to the terms during the Treaty of Trianon. And yes, Romania was a major founding member of the League of Nations. That's what I was going to say. I just forgot what it was called. I wanted to say the Treaty of Versailles, but that's not it. Okay, considering I'm talking about Transylvania, I'm just going to get this out of this video here. First of all, I'm a huge folklore sort of fan, but let's be perfectly honest, okay? This is one thing that Romania and Transylvania is most famous for, at least in the Western world, and that is vampires. And yes, within Transylvania, there are no vampires, and there is no Frankenstein monster. Alright, side note, did you know that Romania is home to the world's heaviest building? This one I found absolutely amazing. It is heavy! Known as the Palace of Parliament in Bucharest, this is a big one. The thing actually took forever to build. As a matter of fact, it started back in 1984 and it didn't finish until 1997. What's more insane is it took over 700 architects to build, and they were all led by a woman named Anca Petrescu, who has the title of working on the second or first largest civilian administrative building in the world. Partially because this is a really debated topic, I've heard this building is the #1 in this category, but I've also heard it's #2. It's also considered the world's most expensive administrative building ever built, coming in at approximately 3 billion euros. It also has approximately 1,100 rooms and has the size of 2,550,000 cubic meters. That is a big palace. Huge. And if you're wondering how much it weighs, it comes in at approximately 4,098,500,000 kilograms. And it's heavy, and nothing in the world even comes close. It's big. Unfortunately, this building does not classify as a World UNESCO Heritage Site, but if they keep this building, well, around for long enough, it might actually get that title at some point in history. And speaking of which, you can rest assured the country of Romania is very good at preserving its culture because it's got a fair amount of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Currently, right now, it has 8 of them with approximately 15 on the tentative list. Theoretically, though, you could say there are more than 8 of them because 2 of them have a lot of individual structures within those categories. What I mean is one category is the villages with fortified churches within Transylvania. There is approximately 7 of these churches within that category. And there's also the wooden churches of Maramureș, which has 8 within that category alone. Which to me is something I just really like. I mean, it just goes to show that Romania is a country that is all about preserving its culture and, you know, its history, which I think is very much important.